lymphatic drainage and not seeing the results that either you want, you expect, or you hear other people are getting and getting really frustrated, because I get it. I've been there. There might be an extremely important component that you are missing that is preventing you from getting the lymphatic drainage results that not only should you be getting, but that you deserve to get. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about what that is, because it's one thing. And here's the crazy part. Majority of people out there are not doing this one thing properly. And it's kind of important. We need to be doing this one thing properly in order for overall health and well-being, let alone lymphatic drainage. So stick with me, because I'm going to tell you exactly what it is, but I want to do a quick recap on why this is so important, because remember, our lymphatic system doesn't have a pump of its own. It actually relies on the contraction of muscles surrounding the lymphatic vessels in order to help the lymphatic fluid drain. Remember, we have lymph fluid in the tips of our fingers, down to our toes, in our abdomen, our brain, everywhere. And all of that fluid has to get above our collarbones at the termini. So what happens is those muscular contractions help to move the lymphatic fluid along with our heartbeat. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I thought you said that it doesn't have a pump. It doesn't. But the heart beating and causing the arteries to pulse also helps move that lymphatic fluid around. So actual movement of our body is important. Now, that is something that you're going to have to hone in on, take note, and see, how much am I moving my body? Am I a couch potato? Do I sit for long hours, kind of like I'm doing right now? Or do I get up and move? That is going to help. But guess what? That's not what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about today is, how are you breathing? What? How does breathing help with lymphatic drainage? I know you might be thinking that, okay, great. How would my breathing affect the lymphatic drainage of my arms or my legs? It's a great question. I'm so glad you asked me. The crazy part is, most of our lymphatic fluid is just below the surface of our skin. So we can absolutely influence our hands, our arms, our breast tissue, our necks, our face, our abdomen, our legs. But guess what though? There's one thing that you gotta know. All of the lymphatic fluid from our lower body, essentially from our belly button below, once it gets up to the groin, or once it gets to the groin lymph nodes, what happens is that lymphatic fluid dives deep. It goes deep inside us. Not to mention, this is where all the lymphatic fluid, majority of it, from our internal organs goes and how it drains. So it drains up through what's called the thoracic duct. Now, the thoracic duct ultimately runs along our spinal column. So right in front of our vertebrae, the bodies of our vertebrae, that duct runs right along the side. And it's usually off to the right, just a smidge. It's not right in the middle. But what happens is, how do we influence the lymphatic fluid once it gets into the thoracic duct? We can't manually do it by using our hands or a dry brush or gua sha. We can't physically push it, because I don't know about you guys, but I sure the heck am not going to be pushing into my abdomen to try and touch my vertebrae. That's just not going to happen. One, that's going to hurt. Two, you just can't do it. So our body was designed pretty amazingly. And how it's going to drain is, well, ultimately from breathing. Now, here's the thing that you might be asking yourself. Well, okay, great. I breathe all the time. What does that have to do with it not working and helping my lymphatic fluid to drain? Most of us are mouth breathers. Most of us breathe through our mouth. And most of us are shallow chest breathers. So when we're breathing, we might be breathing and taking these shallow breaths where our shoulders come up, our chest expands. And guess what? That's not actually going to create that pressure that we need in our abdomen in order to help drain that lymphatic fluid. So remember, we got to create a pressure deficit, right? Fluid flows from high pressure to low pressure. The lowest pressure is above our clavicles. But in order to get that to move, we have to create that pressure in our abdomen for the thoracic duct. And how we do that is by diaphragmatic breathing, meaning we're using our diaphragm to help push that fluid all the way up to our left clavicle, because all of the fluid from our belly button down drains up over our left clavicle. Yep, right side of your leg, drains on the left clavicle. So we have to make sure that we're using our diaphragm and we're ultimately belly breathing. So diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing, very similar. It's just ultimately like one is explaining the mechanics and one is explaining like the direction. Most people are like, if I belly breathe, I understand what that means. Like it's easier to picture. So what I'm going to encourage you guys to do is take a step back and throughout your day, notice, how are you breathing? Are you mouth breathing? Mouth breathing, it usually doesn't allow us to fully extend our diaphragm when we do it, therefore not creating enough pressure to move our lymphatic fluid. We should be nasal breathing. And then the other thing is, are we taking slow, like deep breaths, or are we taking short, shallow breaths? Short, shallow breaths are gonna ultimately result in this like chest shoulder breathing. And that is not going to move the lymphatic fluid. So throughout your day, take notice. Ultimately, like stop yourself and be like, how am I breathing? What's happening? And then take notice of how you're feeling. Are you stressed out? Because I can pretty much guarantee if you are more stressed out, you're not going to be breathing the way that you should be. Your body is like fight, flight, freeze. Like I got to get out of this situation. I have to ultimately protect myself in order to survive. So what we want you to do is get in a relaxed position. And when you first start learning how to belly breathe, how to use your diaphragm, it's easiest to do it laying down. You're taking gravity out of like the picture, you're in a more relaxed position. So what you can do, what I recommend doing is when you wake up in the morning, start by taking a couple deep belly breaths. Put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. And I also recommend doing this at night when you go to sleep. This is how I go to sleep. I always sleep with one hand on my chest, one hand on my belly, and I just focus in on moving the hand that's on my belly. I want my lower hand to come out and then drop in. I want very little movement on my upper hand that's sitting on my chest. Reason being, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be activating your diaphragm to pull lymphatic fluid up into your thoracic duct and drain on your left side. So this may take some time for you to get used to doing. And this is why I also encourage you to make sure that you are doing diaphragmatic breathing when you are doing your specific 7 or your total 12 or dry brushing or manual lymphatic massage, whatever type of lymphatic drainage, even if it's rebounding or vibration plate or whatever, that you take a couple minutes to belly breathe, because that's going to help pull everything up and it's going to help clear things. So the first step though, again, take notice of how are you breathing. Are you chest breathing? Are you shallow breathing? You know, what's going on? And then what you can do is slowly work on increasing your diaphragmatic breathing, that deep belly breathing, breathing in through your nose, relaxing things out. Because not only is this going to help move your lymphatic fluid better, but it's also going to help your nervous system shift from sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state. Let me know below, what kind of breather are you? Are you a belly breather? Are you a chest breather? Are you a mixed breather? Because guess what? I'm a mixed breather, especially when I'm stressed out. When I'm working out, I typically am a chest breather, especially when I'm doing cardio, but I'm working on it. And that's exactly what we need to do, is become aware of what we're doing so then we can make changes and alter and shift what we're doing. So like I said, let me know below. Are you a belly breather? Are you a chest breather? And let me know if you want more direction on how to become a better diaphragmatic breather to help your lymphatic system. Happy draining!